Welcome to the Recon Trader. In today's video, I will share with you the probability of Bitcoin and Ethereum either pumping or dumping based on tactical technical analysis. So let's get right over to the charts. Now, the first chart we'll take a look at today will be Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame on the Binance exchange. And this is actually the pattern we were watching in the last couple videos as Bitcoin's price continues to get squeezed into this triangle. And in the last video, we were actually watching Bitcoin sell off. And since that time, it did actually rebound and we were able to set a new higher low, which is a continuation of this trend of higher lows. However, at the moment, we are headed back towards this trend line. And if we reject here and start to sell off again, we continue the trend of setting lower highs. And what that boils down to is this is a downward moving trend. And when you're faced with a downward moving trend on this type of pattern, and the most likely probability is the price action will end up dumping and selling off. And if that was to happen and we were to break down through this trend line, then in all likelihood we'd be looking at a sell-off of somewhere down to around 22% if 30,000 actually holds as support. If it does not hold as support, then we're probably headed down closer to 28%, which would put us around the 28,000 level. Those would be the two levels I'd be watching if this price action breaks down and sells off, which is unfortunately the most likely probability given the current trend. Now on the flip side, if this price action is actually able to break up, then the first level we actually really have to get past is the 40,500 level, which is around where we sold off previously. Then the next level is where we actually bounced up to after the big sell-off, and that would be your 42.5 level. And then after that, if we are able to actually breach above the 42.5 level, then we could see a move back up into around the 49,000 to 51.5 level. The 51.5 level does actually pose some pretty strong resistance as well. So it would be a level to keep an eye on if the bulls are able to charge up and move this price action back into this zone. Now, if we jump over to the daily chart, we have a very similar pattern with higher lows, but yet lower highs setting up. And today's candle is actually working to actually breach above this trend line. Now, if it's able to do that, you need to beware this could be a fake out and only then sell off back into this 30,000 level. And so I'll grab the Fibonacci extension tool and we'll swing from the low of 30,000 up to the high of this previous sell-off level of 59.5. And so now we have some price target levels we can take a look at. And so the first level I'm looking at is obviously if this sells off, then we need 30,000 to hold. If 30,000 fails to hold, 22,000 becomes our next level, and that's the 1272 level. And if you're curious why so many of us traders put weight into the Fibonacci extension tool, if we look back, we see that 1272 level happens to be a previous level of support, and just by drawing that in, we hit a previous level of support. So there is truly some weight to these Fibonacci levels. Now, another level that does carry weight is that 30,000 level. If we look back, that also acted as previous support, and it's really strong support. So if this does end up rejecting and selling off, I would look for 30,000 to hold. If that breaks, that is going to be extremely bearish, and we're probably headed towards that 22,000 level. Now, on the flip side, the levels we need to get above, like I mentioned before, is going to be around the 618 level of the Fibonacci, which is around the 41,000. And obviously, the 42,005 level was pretty big resistance on the rebound from the big sell-off. So between 40 and 43,000, we need to get above those levels. If the bulls can push forward, then we're looking at the 382 level, which is around 48,000. And then after that, we saw resistance at 51.5. And in all likelihood, that's probably going to be some pretty strong resistance. So to quickly recap, we need to keep an eye on 30,000 on the downside. If that fails to hold the line, then we're looking at 22,000. On the upside, really 40, 41, 43, those are going to be levels we need to push through with some volume. Then we could be headed back towards 48 or even 51,000. But in the short term, I will be watching the 4-hour chart and looking for what direction this squeeze ends up playing out. So with that all being said, let's jump over to the ETH chart and take a look at the 4-hour Ethereum chart on Binance. And from what I see on the Binance chart is actually a little more bullish than the Bitcoin chart, which typically is the case when Bitcoin dumps, the alts dump deeper, and when Bitcoin rebounds, the alts typically rebound a little quicker than Bitcoin as well, and that's pretty much what we're seeing. And as you can see, where Ethereum sold off when Bitcoin sold off and had its rebound, it sold off a little deeper, but it was actually able to rebound back up to where it had previously rebounded, where Bitcoin did not. Bitcoin did not bounce back up into the same level. So Ethereum actually had a stronger rebound back up. And so this pattern, in my view, is a little more bullish. And as you can see, we are setting higher lows, and the price is coming in and actually testing this trend line. Now, something that was notable to me was this move here was very bullish. As the price action broke above the 9 EMA, it broke through the downwards trend line and pushed back up towards a resistance level of 27.50, and yet did get rejected, but we've actually pushed above that today. Now, if we can hold above this 27.50 level, I think that will be very bullish for Ethereum, and the potential of pumping up would be more likely. Now, if the bulls are able to push this price action up, then we got to be looking at the 3,000 level. That will be definitely a level of resistance. If we are able to get above that 3,000 level, then I think the next target's up there around 3,500. Now, on the flip side, if this comes up into the trend line and rejects once again, then we have to consider the possibility of it dumping. And if it does dump, then we could see it push all the way back down into the 1,700 level, and that would be a very realistic level for it to dump into. Now, if we jump over to the daily chart, you can see I have the Fibonacci levels already dropped in. And right now we're looking at this 618 to 2750 range as kind of resistance, where we saw resistance back here previously. We are still seeing that as resistance on these two candles. However, today we've moved above, but the real question will we be able to hold above? This candle moved above only to sell off. Are we looking at the same pattern? Are we going to move above and then sell off tomorrow? Or will it continue to push up? And that first level of resistance we were talking about on the 4-hour chart happens to be that 3,000 level, which you can see is another Fibonacci level. And it's not a coincidence that this level matches up with the 3,000 level, and traders will respect these Fibonacci levels, which happens to be one of the levels. Now, if the bulls can continue their charge, then we're looking at the 382 level, which is around 33.50. And you can see it did actually sell off from that level. After that, then we have a shot of reaching back to the all-time highs. Now, on the flip side, if this ends up selling off, then we could see a pattern similar to here, where the 786 level actually held at around 2271, or call it 2300. If that gets breached, then more than likely we're headed back down towards 1900 or 1700. And from there, if the bears take control, then the next level I'm looking at is 1400, or the Fibonacci 1272 level at 1000. Now, where do some of those figures come in at? Again, you just check your 6, and you can see the 1400 level kind of acted as support back in here. We saw 1700 act as support previously, and we saw 1900, which acted as prior resistance that often turns into future support. So to recap some targets for Ethereum, if we pump, we're looking at 3,000 to be the first target. After that, we're looking at around 3350, and then from there we could move back towards the all-time high around 4,000 to 4,500. Now, if it dumps, then we're looking at around 2,300, which is the 786 level. Obviously 1,900, 1,700. And then if 1,700 fails to hold the line, we're looking at 1,400 and perhaps a worst case scenario, 1,000. Now, if we hit the 1,000 level, better believe I have some limit orders set up right now at that level. I would be a buyer at that level. So I think that pretty much wraps it up. Remember, as a trader, it's not your objective to pick tops or bottoms. It's also not your objective to pick what direction the price will move. The price is going to move the way it's going to move. It's your objective to be involved at a level that exposes you to minimum risk relative to the perceived potential profit, and that is why we look at both bullish and bearish price targets. And so I will continue to do these updated price target videos, so now would be a good time to shoot the subscribe button. If you like this video, do me a favor, spike a like. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. I will drop a link to TradingView, which is the charting software that I use in these videos, in the description down below. And in closing, remember, never send your money into battle without first doing your recon. See you in the next video.